Hello, friends. So, it has been a hot minute since I have been able to give any kind of update. So, I'm hoping that I have enough time to kind of give you a rundown on what's been going on. I feel like every video I've been doing is kind of an update, but you might learn something new. So, let's rewind. Last year in 2022, as I told many of you, I was expecting my fourth child, baby number 4. It's a little boy. So in December, right after Christmas, we went to the hospital and we had the cutest, blondest, curly-haired little boy. And he is an absolute joy. So when he was 30 hours old, he was life-flighted over to Children's Hospital. And in one of my last videos, I updated you guys. That is where I was. I was at the Children's Hospital. He had a lot of issues being born that we were not expecting. We did have a few complications with the pregnancy. Nothing that seemed too concerning, especially later on in the 3rd trimester, the last one. And so he was having issues, as in like he wouldn't eat. He was having some cardiopulmonary issues. So a big part of his transfer was due to, like, it was called cardiopulmonary hypertension. They had told me that it would or should have resolved itself usually within 24 hours, but it did not. And he would not eat. We tried everything, and there's so many things that I could go on about with that whole experience, but that is for another video. So he was transferred over to a level 4 NICU at Children's Hospital, and so we got there the next day. He was born at 1:31 in the afternoon. They transferred him at 7:30 the next day in the evening. And then we got over there the day after, because the closest children's hospital to us is like 3 hours away. So we were emotionally stressed, traumatized. So my husband and I went home. We seen our 3 other children, and then we left. And we stayed up there for 3 or 4 days before we had to come back home to our other kids. I stayed with the newborn. He was there for 6 weeks. He was 6 weeks old before they released him. As soon as we walked into the door and got into the NICU to see our boy, he was on respiratory support. He had a feeding tube. We hadn't even met the resident that was seeing him, or the doctor, before a specialty had come in and just blew our minds with the fact that a specialty was coming in. And so, come to find out, he has several anomalies, and he has colobomas of the eye, where the eye doesn't fully form, and he's got that of the iris and of the retinas. The retinas, it is in both eyes, and the iris is just in one eye, so it's very obvious. We've been told he will be partially blind in that eye. And he also has a curved tailbone, which was very strange. That was never picked up on any ultrasound beforehand. He also failed his state screening, and he has congenital hypothyroidism. Again, none of this was expected. Nothing. We've had genetic tests done. We've had an array of all sorts of testing done. My fourth child has been through more diagnostics and labs than I think I have been through in my lifetime. So the emotional, the financial, and just the physical strain, I mean, I was literally, 2 days postpartum having to make 3-hour trips and then staying at the hospital. Sleep rooms weren't always available. The Ronald McDonald House, they didn't have any room for us. I guess we didn't live far enough away, and there was a mile-long wait list. So, moving forward, 6 weeks, he finally got to come home, our little fighter. And he was discharged with a feeding tube. So my husband and I, 2 times each, had to put a feeding tube down our 6-week-old baby through his nose. He had a nasogastro one. That sucked, to be honest. But we did it because we wanted him home and we needed to know how to take care of him. And we did it all. We got it. We got him home, and it was just like a breath of fresh air. It was almost like I don't even know what to do with a 6-week-old, because I'm used to bringing them home, at 24 hours old. So it has been a complete and whole new experience with this baby. And he is one of the happiest babies. Out of my 4 children, he is the absolute happiest, with the most contagious smile. He will turn your frown upside down. So at 8 weeks old, we were hell-bent and determined to get that feeding tube removed. And so we removed it, and he did so much better. So we removed it at 8 weeks old. He sees multiple specialties. He sees orthopedic, ophthalmology, neurology, speech. He's doing physical therapy now. There's another one I'm missing, and I couldn't tell you what it is. My brain's been fried. So at 3 months old, we had more genetic testing done. Well, we finally got results in March when he turned 3 months old. And he has an extremely rare diagnosis. It was unexpected. My husband and I also chose to do the testing, and his diagnosis came back as Kabuki syndrome. He has, or also known as Kabuki makeup syndrome. There's another word for it. I believe it's Japanese. That's where it originated from. So Kabuki makeup syndrome, or Kabuki syndrome, is a multi-system disorder. It's a genetic disorder. My little boy's is the KMT2D gene mutation, and we have had an overload of information since finding out, and I still have to kind of glance at my notes to be able to explain it, but it's multi-system it can affect multiple systems. Luckily for us, our little boy has like the colobomas, part of it. We're not sure if the hypothyroidism is part of it. He could possibly grow out of his congenital hypothyroidism, or that's just a freak thing of nature that he's got both of them. But his gene mutation is called de novo, so it was brand new. It was not expected. The only way that we could have found out beforehand is if I had done like the amniocentesis to find out, for other things. And quite frankly, I've never done it with any of my kids, because regardless if they have any type of issue, we're gonna love them, we're gonna keep them. That's just our preference. But aside from that, it was not inherited. My husband and I, we both do not carry it. So it was just a freak accident, gene mutation. The chances of it are 1 in 32,000. So having done the math, and I don't have it written down or off the top of my head, but it's very rare. So this was not something that was expected, because even though Kabuki syndrome can be clinically diagnosed even as an adult, it's not something that providers usually look for. And my little guy, as little as he is, does not carry the full features, and they don't become more distinctive until they're older. But they do usually have distinctive features like high arched eyebrows, a small mouth, a high cleft palate. Sometimes there's issues with the eyes. Like I said, my little guy has the coloboma and the curved tailbone. And these children, when diagnosed young, they tend to stay small. This is all just from my own research. If I've said anything wrong and you know anything about this, please feel free to correct me. But, his high arched palate contributed to his feeding difficulties. He couldn't breastfeed. There was only a certain bottle he could take, and even then he struggled. And he struggled immensely with it. These children don't tend to meet milestones, and as they get a little older, they sometimes are anywhere from mildly to severely mentally impaired. There's so many different things, because this is multi-system, so everybody's experience is different. We've had to change my little guy over to a hypoallergenic formula, and he's done so much better with it. We're finally starting baby food. He just turned 6 months old. He also just started rolling, and physical therapy has been working with him. He has been such a joy. And I feel like I'm kind of wrapping that up quickly for just saying that, he has Kabuki syndrome. Do your own research, so to say. But again, every experience is different. So, these kids tend to stay on their own growth curve, and you can't compare them to normal kids or, the average, because these guys are amazing. My little dude is the best. He's the cutest, and I stand by that. But anyway, I'm doing great. I have had no problems since the birth, besides, the mental and physical exhaustion. It sounds like he's waking up for his midnight bottle. So I think I've picked a great time to wrap this up, and I will try to give a little more information and do what I can when I can. But I hope you enjoyed, and maybe you've learned something new. Till next time, thank you so much for tuning in, if you would like to see more of me, that's not the soft-spoken ASMR kind of thing. I do have social media. I do have TikTok and Instagram. I'm not on there a whole lot, but I do post. I'm on there more often than I YouTube. But till next time, I hope you have a wonderful night, evening, day, afternoon, morning, whatever time it may be for you. And I'll be back soon. Bye.